This evening with a public hearing. We are considering an ordinance to amend the Millersville Borough Code of Ordinances zoning to establish the Green Energy Overlay District as petitioned by Student Lodging, Inc. We will be taking comments from the public, but I believe we have some attorneys for SLI who'd like to make a statement first.
Yes, good evening, members of council. My name is Isaac Wakefield. I'm here on behalf of Student Lodging, Inc. Everybody looks familiar. We've been here a number of times before on this proposal. I've been before your planning commission as well. I don't want to stand in the way of an efficient meeting, so I just wanted to bring something to the board's attention that may, in candor. On Friday, we received, or I accessed comments from the Lancaster County Planning Commission staff. Those comments recommended approval of the ordinance as presented, much like your planning commission did. And I do have, there's a few comments with that. I do have copies of those if you'd like to see it, and I can respond to them if you'd like. However, yesterday, the planning commission actually declined to take that recommendation. And the sole, I paged through the video on it. We don't have a letter from them yet, a timely letter from them. So all I have to go on is the explanation that I got from staff in the video. The focus of their concern was exclusively on the matter that we've discussed with council and your planning commission at every meeting, which was the hope that that property would be devoted to residential use. I see heads nodding, so I'm happy everybody recalls that discussion. We think we have presented to the board and made effort upon effort to make residential happen on that property, and it's simply not something that's going to work. The Planning Commission, as you know, is a recommending body only. They didn't timely give you a denial letter, but I wanted you to know that that was the action that was taken in the event that warrants further discussion and response from us. Do you have interest in seeing the recommendation for approval from the county staff, or not at this time?
Members of council, I don't feel any particular need.
I don't feel a need, no.
Okay. It is a legislative decision for this board, of course, and you all know what's going on, your planning commission knows what's going on, and everybody has so far recommended approval at the local level, and who knows the facts. So we're respectfully requesting that the ordinance be approved, that the resolution for the comp plan be approved, and are happy to answer any questions that might come up from public comment or the board.
Appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, and at this time, as part of the public hearing, I will open up the floor for public comment. Again, this is on the ordinance to amend the Millersville Borough Code of Ordinances zoning to establish the Green Energy Overlay District as petitioned by SLI. This has been a point of discussion here in front of this council a number of times. So if there's anything new or additional that anybody from the public would like to, please come up to the microphone and do so, or we can have the microphone brought to you. Very well. Seeing none, we will close the public hearing and consider the vote on this ordinance. At this time, I will motion to approve the ordinance to amend the Millersville Borough Code of Ordinances zoning to establish the Green Energy Overlay District as petitioned by Student Lodging, Inc. I am looking for a second, please.
I'll second.
From Phyllis, any final discussion out of council for this? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion, please indicate so by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Abstentions? Very well, motion carries with unanimity. Moving on, I will now make a motion to approve the resolution to amend the Millersville Borough Comprehensive Plan to establish the Green Energy Overlay District as petitioned by Student Lodging, Inc. Do I have a second?
A second.
Marion? Any discussion on this required by council? Seeing none, I will call for a vote. All those in favor of the motion, please indicate so by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries again with unanimity. All right, there we go. With that out of the way, we'll call the meeting of Millersville Borough Council to order as of 6:04 p.m. As a reminder to the folks in the audience, this is being live streamed. I do ask that you now rise for the Pledge of Allegiance and remain standing for a moment of silence.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All be seated.
Now the room clears.
Yeah. Well, once you serve communion.
That's right.
All right. At this time, I would like to make a motion to approve the minutes from our council meeting held on February 25th, 2025. Do I have a second?
A second?
Very well. Any corrections or discussions on the minutes for that meeting? In that case, all those in favor of the motion, please indicate so by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Very good. Motion carries. At this time, council will hear any comments, requests, or concerns from members of the public related to items on the agenda or other matters. You will have 5 minutes to speak. We do ask that you come either to the microphone or request that the microphone be brought to you. We do also ask that you give your name and a general address for the record.
Okay, my name is Richard Franz. I live 55 North Duke Street. And I just wanted to say, a few years ago, I went to a local sandwich shop, and they asked me, they said, hey, do you work for the college? I'll give you a discount. And I said, no, I don't work for the college, but I'm a veteran. Shook their head and said, that's tough. So I walked out. I never went back again. I am really glad that you are showing interest in the Hometown Heroes program. My father was a senior master sergeant in the Battle of the Bulge. My wife's father was in the Second World War and the Korean War. I have at least nine uncles that served in World War II. So it was kind of a neat thing growing up with a family like that from many different aspects. But what got me is we're in a college town, and it's even when I talk to certain people, they don't understand about our veterans and what they've done. And I think I want to thank you guys, whoever was a part of that, that brought this new program up. So that maybe they'll ask some questions. Who is that guy? What did he do? You know? And I know that they're a part of us. So I want to salute all the veterans and say thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. Thank you, Richard, as always. Any other comments from our citizens here? Very well. Then we will move on to our committees. Starting with Finance Advisory Committee, I will start with a motion. Oh, I'm sorry. We should start with a roll call. Those individuals on Finance Committee, please let the audience know. Raise your hand. All right. So we're going to start today with a motion to accept the February financial report and authorize staff to satisfy ordinary and routine obligations incurred by the borough for this month. May I have a second in council, or in committee rather? Thank you. From Mary Ann. Any discussion required on that? Very well. All those members of the committee in favor indicate so by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Abstentions? The motion carries. This is not a voting item, but Rebecca, did you want to talk a little bit about the budget adjustment required for our streets project in 2025?
Sure. So this item, we brought forward, again, it isn't a voting item because we're not asking for a budget adjustment or anything like that, but we're making a change of how one of the budget items, or one of the budget lines was intended to be used this year. That's why I wanted to bring it to your attention. Originally, the line for miscellaneous street projects for 2025 was going to be used in the entirety for the replacement of the loops in our traffic signal. So right now, and Kyle, correct me if I'm wrong, there are loops underneath of the road right now that help indicate when lights should change. We would like to be moving to a radar system which probably everybody is familiar with in some way or another, that instead of there being a loop underneath, there's a radar in the light that's indicating when there are cars coming up so that they know when to change. That we had gotten a quote back in 2024 that had then told us what we wanted to do then for 2025. But then when we got a new quote after the budget had already been passed, it was going to be higher than we thought to do all of the traffic signals in the borough. So it's just, we don't see it really being feasible for this year to do the entirety of the replacement. The road one of the roads that is going to be paved this year is Cottage Avenue, which has a loop. So in order to not have to then pave a road, rip up a road to then redo it, we'd like to do that change of signal type with Cottage Avenue, replace that one with radar so that it's paved this year. We don't have to touch it again. I put into the backup the engineering cost for that, and then we bid the construction part out. With the other funds left over in that, because that would be obviously considerably less than doing all of them, but the leftover funds, we need to unexpectedly patch a section of road on Kaufman Alley. That will be approximately $16,000. That was the lowest quote that we got. That's a little more time sensitive and something that we didn't necessarily anticipate coming up this year, but it would be probably the best use of the leftover funds in that line item to take care of that, because it is sort of a time sensitive issue. Do you have anything to add on that, Kyle?
I'll just add to that, also with the radar, we also discovered that we can get grant
Yes, thank you.
for that. So it was kind of, as soon as we heard we can get grant for it, we kind of, we'll just hold off on that, because if somebody else can pay for it, much better. So
We intend to go for grant funding. We'd apply for that this year in preparation for next year.
And that answers my only other question, was this going to complicate the budget for next year, having to shove the expense off until 26? But if we can, hopefully not, if we can get the grant money, all right.
yeah, so that was a big decision on that, was
Yeah.
just.
Good discovery on that, yeah.
So,
So like I
Thanks,
said,
Kyle.
no vote on that, just we wanted to make you aware.
thank you.
All right, appreciate it. Any other questions for Rebecca or Kyle here? All right, then I will pass the figurative gavel over to our Personnel Committee.
Okay, roll call, so anybody that is with personnel, if you can just let everybody know. So, I don't know if we ever brought this to personnel before, the actual, like, anybody
The
discussed?
discussion was had two personnel committees ago.
Okay, and you're gonna explain it way better than I can, because you also had a phone call in regards to this as well, that's gonna add a little bit more information than. If you can discuss, just tell everybody what it is and then what that phone call was, because I did.
Yes. Yeah, no, absolutely can do. So for this item here, this discussion of the Act 49 of 2024 military service buyback program. So this request did come from our police association. It was a request to do a side agreement with our police association to adopt the provisions of Act 49, which was an act passed by the state legislature last year, allowing for these police the regular buyback service, which is like our buyback service right now for military service. This would be a buyback for other service done somewhere in the Commonwealth. I provided to the council a memo that I didn't think was too lengthy. It was hopefully a short read. To give you some of the background on this, some of the research that's been done, and sort of a summary of a very long and very helpful conversation that I had with our actuary firm. We use the Municipal Retirement Trust is our pension holder, but we use Thomas J. Anderson and Associates as our actuary firm. They're wonderful. The borough switched to them about 7 years ago, and they're a wealth of knowledge. So they gave a lot of really helpful information about this. So in the memo, I went over a couple of things. What it means to buy back pension credit. So meaning that they would be able to buy additional years of service, basically like they had already served those additional years, if they had worked at another police department in Pennsylvania. It would result in then higher retirement benefits later on as well. By purchasing those service credits, they would be able to add those years of service to their pension calculation, boosting their retirement benefits as if they had worked those years. For our current pension plan, our police officers are vested after 12 years of service. The normal retirement age is 50 with the completion of 25 years of service. So some of the big issues to consider with this, one, certainly, well, there's one of the big legal aspects is that we actually can't make a change to our pension program without doing a cost study. That's a state requirement. We don't necessarily get to make that decision. So if this was something that was going to be considered, it would have to be after we could do a cost study. That's a state requirement. What our specific firm told us is that the soonest they would be able to do a study for us would be over the summer, because they do a biannual report for us that comes out usually at the end of spring, and that gives us our most updated numbers on how our pension plan is doing overall. We wouldn't be able to have a cost study until that report is done. So that's why they're telling us that it would be, the earliest would be summer that they would be able to do that cost study for us. The sort of other, I think, big thing to consider is that this is certainly not a cost neutral program. And it's not to say that it's a bad program, it's just not cost neutral. From what our firm has told us, they are expecting that it would raise our minimum municipal obligation to our pension about 3 to 6 times. So that is slightly a scary number because of the fact that our MMO is already very high. We are a small borough. We don't necessarily have the same money in reserves as, say, a larger township. So our MMO is already relatively high.
Excuse me, Rebecca.
Yes, please go for it.
3 times higher than what we,
3 to 6 times higher.
than what we already are obligated to.
Right. That's what they anticipate the study would come out with. Obviously, we'd have a more specific number after we did the study.
Right.
But that's what they're expecting. And one of the nice things is they had a lot of this information because 2 of the staff members, as part of Thomas J. Anderson Associates, were actually part of the state task force that helped give the information to the legislature when they were putting together this bill. So they know a heck of a lot about it, which is great for us because we have them as working for us. So the other thing, of course, to consider is certainly while we want people to retire and all of those things, it is a staff consideration of do we want, folks retiring a little earlier than maybe we had anticipated. Obviously, again, we want folks to be able to take advantage of all the pension offers. We have a wonderful pension here at the borough, so we want everyone to be able to take advantage of that. The other thing too is, and I know that this came up from the police association, the interest in being able to use this as a hiring tool. In talking with our folks at Thomas J. Anderson and Associates, and actually also getting a chance to sit in on a couple of sessions about this specific act at a recent conference, a statewide conference on labor relations. They went into depth on this, and right now, at least at the state level, they're not necessarily seeing that this is going to have a huge effect on hiring, just because it's something that folks won't be able to take advantage of until they are fully vested. So it's this may have been different maybe 50 years ago when, I don't want to speak ill of any generation, but maybe certain generations, like, that pension was a lot more important. I think now that bottom line number tends to be a little more important. So they're not seeing it have a huge effect on hiring yet, but that doesn't mean that it won't.
Are there other departments that are using it right now that we can?
No, unfortunately, that's the other big issue is that there, at least in Lancaster so far, no other municipalities have taken advantage of this yet. So it's really hard for us to have a solid look at this until we know sort of what effect it has on other boroughs and townships. So that they can't even give us that information yet. It is so new. This was just passed last year. The other thing that I'll add, and then I will stop talking, is that this is a negotiating year for our police association. Not to say that council certainly can't do agreements from that outside of the negotiating time, but this is the negotiating year. If we can't do a cost study until summer anyway, we're already going to be into negotiations at that point. It probably is who of council to just go ahead and wait and discuss this as part of the negotiations. That would be certainly my recommendation, would
I
be.
couldn't
to
agree more.
Yeah,
I was going to
gonna
ask
say
you
that too.
about that. And have we begun negotiations yet?
Not yet. We still have a few months until the deadline to
Okay,
get started.
that's very sensible, I think, what you're saying.
No, I agree. I agree. Just because we can't do anything until summertime anyway. I mean, it's,
Yeah, it makes perfect
yeah.
sense.
Okay, any other questions or anything for Ms. Rebecca on that?
Quick question, I'm not sure if anybody has an answer right now, but can someone inquire that if somebody works for another police department and is vested there
Yes.
but decides to leave, whatever they paid into their retirement can be transferred over to us?
They would not be able to take advantage of this program with the borough. If they're already vested somewhere else, like if another borough, their vesting schedule is 10 years, they did 10 years there and then they come here because they want to finish out their career somewhere else, that's great. They would not be able to take advantage of this because they're already 100% vested at their other municipality. So the state says you cannot double dip. So they're getting that full pension. This would not apply to them.
And or to find out if whatever they have paid into their pension, whether they're vested or not, what happens to that money? Can it be transferred to our account?
My understanding of it is that if they're fully vested with that other pension, then they're gonna get paid out of that pension whenever they retire.
Right. And then they can reinvest it if they want into like a 401, whatever,
Thank you.
another
Appreciate it.
retirement plan.
Okay, where are we at here? The Education Service Agency it was like a committee that was used when we were hiring our own crossing guards. So now we have an actual company that we hired that supplies that for us, so we no longer need this agency. So, we're gonna look for an approval to advertise an ordinance to dissolve the Educational Service Agency.
I make a motion.
We can just
To do
move
that.
on, yeah. Do we have a second?
I second, yeah.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Say aye. Anybody opposing? Any abstain? Okay, then, out of committee, we are going to advertise the ordinance to dissolve the Educational Service Agency.
All right.
I feel like a
Actually-
newscaster, and back.
We'll actually be passing the figurative gavel over to Public Welfare and Public Works. Phyllis, you want to take it?
I will. Everyone who is a member of the Public Works Committee, please raise your hand so they know who we are. Thank you. And the first thing that is on our agenda this evening is a review of the February codes and zoning report. Rob?
Thank you, council. So in February, we issued 7 permits, performed 13 residential inspections. We had 57 rental renewals, 36 rental inspections, 6 trash and rubbish complaints, 2 property maintenance, and 3 suspected rentals. In March so far, we've issued 7 permits, performed 2 inspections, 20 rental renewals, and 14 inspections so far, and 2 trash complaints. Are there any other questions on the rest of the report?
Anyone have any questions for Rob?
Nope. What are the trash problems?
Toters overflowing that were not picked up by Penn Waste. So if the top doesn't close, it's my understanding that they will not take those toters.
Really?
Yep.
They can't stack them up?
You gotta buy trash tags.
Wait, let me ask a question. Because I walk a lot, I see trash out. If all of the trash is in a bag and it's in the toter, and the lid closes, but say maybe 3 or 4 inches, are they must be taking that from what I've seen?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
I have personal experience on that one.
Yeah, me too. That's why I was pretty sure that was okay. Any other questions for Rob?
No, but I am assuming that that those that are overfilled are in bags.
Some of them, Windsor Court had overflow that was blowing trash everywhere, but it's been cleaned
That they
up.
didn't put in the bags.
Yes. It was after the Super Bowl kind of issue.
Are people generally happy with the new trash? Toters?
Maybe some. Sue, how about that?
I think mostly everyone's coming around. It was an adjustment. But
Like any change.
Yeah, our complaints have really, really leveled out. It's nothing like what it was at the beginning, and that's what we expected.
They're very colorful.
Well, and I've watched the truck pick the stuff up, and it's a lot different from the way it was being done before, and it appears to me to be much more sanitary for a start. Any other questions for Rob? All right, thank you very much for your report.
Thank you very much.
Okay, the next item under Public Works is a discussion of subdivision and land development ordinances, or SALDO, and street and sidewalk ordinance revisions. This is something that has been worked on, but at this time, we have not received the final look at the papers, and so, Rebecca, I am going to recommend that we table this tonight.
Yes, we, and I apologize for this, because this was not the intention. Our hope was that everything was going to be ready for this evening. And there was a few more things that were needed from our engineer in order to get this finished. So I hope to bring this back to you then, but, this was a project that was started back, way last year.
Yeah.
But then when URDC closed down, we were again sort of picking it up and trying to finish it now. So our engineer's working on it, Rob's doing a great job. So fingers crossed we will have that for you at the next meeting. We just don't have it this evening, so we can table this item.
Okay, thank you very much. That concludes Public Works.
Excellent. You got anything for us this time around, Mr. Mayor?
I don't have anything this evening, no.
All right, very good. In that case, we'll move over to Rebecca for the manager's report, because you haven't talked enough this evening, so.
Do my best, all right. Okay, so I do only have one item, so that's good. So to give just a tad bit of history, so the item for this evening is an execution of an engagement letter with Barley Snyder for Labor Council Services. At the end of 2024, our Labor Council, Joseph Hoffman, who was with Stevens and Lee, he did retire. Unfortunately, we were not made aware until we got a bounce back email, so that was a little uncomfortable. And
Sorry, I didn't hear that.
We weren't made aware of the retirement.
Oh, nobody told you.
we didn't know until I got a bounce back email sending a question, and I got a bounce back saying, Joseph Hoffman has retired. And I was like, oh, okay, well. he's
And not
not-
even the courtesy of, we're appointing one of our,
Right. So I reached out to the firm, I called their office a couple of times trying to figure out if we were going to be reassigned, were they just dropping us? I got nothing, and it's been 2 months, so I felt like I had no other choice than to try to shop around to try to find another labor council. For a number of reasons. One, we need a labor council. Two, we do have a police negotiation coming up this year, so it's kind of important that we have a labor council solidified before then. I spoke with some other Lancaster boroughs and townships, got some recommendations from our own solicitor, and had a conversation with Labor Council at Barley Snyder. They seem to be a great firm. A lot of folks recommended them. So attached to the backup was an engagement letter that they sent over. Unlike maybe some of our other sort of contracts, this is not really a contract, so to speak. It's an engagement letter saying that they will charge us as we ask for things. So it's more of a pay-as-we-go type of service. but we would be signing a letter engaging with them, saying that they would be our labor attorney going forward. So that would be what I would be looking for, is approval to go ahead and execute that engagement letter.
I wouldn't, I'm not saying this in a negative way. I just want to give you some history with Barley Snyder. They were our labor attorney, and we did negotiate with the police. They fired the woman they had assigned to us as a labor attorney, and we kept her because she was most of the way through helping us. But in my opinion, it wasn't very satisfactory. I mean, she was not very satisfactory. We could have gone back to them, however, but I just want you to know that we did not have a very good experience with that attorney. And, you know, obviously the firm didn't really help us too much. So it's based on your experience. It doesn't sound like Stevens and Lee were really on top of things. So, you know, I'm not saying this in a negative way. I just want you to know that that was our experience as a borough as long, what, 2 years ago?
Yeah.
3 at the most? Yeah.
It was not a positive experience for us.
No, to say the least.
That certainly makes sense. Luckily, the individual that we would be assigned specifically, I don't believe is that individual, and is one who works with a lot of other boroughs and townships, and I've gotten a lot of positive recommendations.
If you're comfortable, I'm comfortable.
In that event, I will bring forward the motion to approve the execution of the engagement letter with Barley Snyder for Labor Council Services. Do I have a second?
Second.
From Phyllis? Any further discussion needed on this? Very well. All those in favor of the motion to approve the execution of the engagement letter with Barley Snyder, please indicate so by saying aye.
Aye.
All
Nay.
opposed?
Nay for me.
No from Linda. Any abstentions? Very well, motion does carry.
That's all I have for this evening.
Very good. We don't need anything for my report, so we will move right into our second public comment section. So, at this time, council will hear comments, requests, or concerns from members of the public related to items on the agenda or other matters. You will have 5 minutes to speak. We do ask that you either come to the microphone or request the microphone be brought to you. And we do ask also that you give your name and a general address for the record. Would anybody like to address council at this time? Very well. Seeing none, I will now entertain motions to adjourn.
I so move.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Very good. All those in favor of a motion to adjourn, please indicate so by saying aye.
Aye.
I call this meeting adjourned as of 6:33 PM.
We didn't do the request for the,
You didn't do your honor.